This panel is about telecoms for EU digital strategic autonomy. So the speakers that we have here in the panel are Paul Naastepad, who is the CEO of Eurofiber, Georg Serentschy, managing partner at Serentschy Advisory Services and a former Austrian regulator, Ingrid, Romijn, the CEO of Qbird, also present here at the stand, a quantum company, and Miguel Gonzalez-Sancho, head of unit of future connectivity systems at the European Commission at DigiConnect. So, title of this panel, Telecoms for EU Digital Strategic Autonomy. What are we talking about? We see that the EU is not in a very strong position when we talk about control over its digital future. And this actually gets worse because there is slow productivity growth, at least according to the Draghi report. And an important aspect of that is that we need to get more innovation to the market in Europe. And there are all kinds of initiatives, European initiatives, we heard about that earlier, national initiatives, and also bottom-up initiatives, you might say, like Eurostack, that are trying to address this challenge of innovation for more digital strategic autonomy. Now, one of the places, if you think about this whole stack of technologies where Europe is actually in a good shape, is in networks. We have a fairly strong position. And you see it also here at the Mobile World Congress. This is a really vibrant field. There's a lot happening in terms of business innovation, in terms of technology development, in terms of policy development. So the title of this panel is not Telecoms and Strategic Autonomy, but it's Telecoms for Strategic Autonomy. So how can telecoms contribute more to European strategic autonomy? I will start by giving every of the panelists a few minutes to make their point, to actually tell how they look at this issue of telecoms for strategic autonomy. I'll start with Paul.
Thank you. If I'm close enough to the microphone. When we talk about autonomy at Eurofiber, and we are operating a fiber optic network, the first thing is to build secure networks, deeply secure networks. That is the first place where you start when you want to get in the direction of autonomy. And what that really means is that we need to look at the security in the total stack of digitalization that we have. And that means not only the software layer, where most of the people are investing their money, but also in the passive layer. And on the passive layer, we do not have to explain ministries and energy companies and other important customers that we have as the air traffic control, what that means. But the concern sometimes is with the companies just a little bit below those very large companies. Do they know enough, and are they doing enough to secure their networks with redundancy to a level that really will result in secure networks? And that's where we have a concern. Some of these companies do not realize fully that they need to invest also in a passive layer, and they build up redundancy using consumer networks, fiber to the home networks, 4G networks. They're really built for consumers. They are not built for business critical applications. So we're trying to explain that, and we're trying to gather also influence with other people to try to bring that message across. And that is sometimes not so easy. And earlier we had here the Minister of the Dutch Economic Affairs, who also stated, we should do this, and we should do this together as a whole industry. So we think when we do this correctly, we have the foundation, just the foundation for autonomy.
So, Paul, what you are talking about is also a lot of partnership, collaboration, and living in an environment, a pretty complex environment, not only because of the cybersecurity challenges, but also there's a lot of regulation around. You are working with critical infrastructures. So, Georg, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I'm just following up what you said. It's very much on security and resilience of critical infrastructure, of our digital infrastructure. And so what could the EU do? And I would like to base my input on the Draghi report. And Draghi said, we need growth. As you said already, we need growth. And for this and for many other things, we need to raise additional funds, 800 billion per year. That sounds an enormous amount of money, but it's 5% of the European GDP. And to raise this, we need, of course, a strengthening of the capital union in Europe, whether it's Eurobonds or whatsoever. So we need new financial instruments. And one of the questions also is, and we see that every day in politics, what could hamper that? It's nationalism, it's leaning towards false friends, and many other these things which are toxic for the European unity. And since last Friday, we all know, we have seen it live, that the European resilience and the European security of the networks, we cannot rely fully on the US support anymore. So since then, there is a new chapter open. It's about our terrestrial infrastructure, our sub-water infrastructure. It's about disruption to satellite systems, in particular for positioning, navigation, and timing. So many other things. And also, you alluded to that we need, for resilience, we need redundancy. And redundancy is extremely costly. So who's going to pay for redundancy? Will it be the taxpayer? Will it be the companies or the consumers? And that needs to be discussed. And that is a big business for governments to deal with that.
Thank you very much, Georg. Very, very interesting and also kind of challenging, because if you take a too narrow view, like nationalism, and if you only look at the past, you're not going to get there. So one of the technologies on which we put many hopes from that perspective is certainly also quantum technologies. And everybody is keen to understand how can that bring us further in terms of strategic autonomy.
Thank you. So my name is Ingrid Romijn. I am a co-founder and CEO of Qbert, and we make quantum network devices. And these quantum network systems can build an additional physical layer to secure our networks, to secure our digital communication, to secure the data that is being sent from location to location. We are a European company. We were able to spin out of the university because of European funds, because of the European Quantum Communication Infrastructure Network and program. So for us, it's really important to stay based in Europe. But we see, of course, that there are many players worldwide. So it is really important to keep investing in Europe because we have the technology in hand. We are one of the top players in Europe. Our technology is based from the university in research. It is really top of the notch. And now we need to be able to spin us out, to build it up. We have a company, so we need to be able to grow further and scale. And we want to do this in Europe. So we really want to scale inside Europe. But that's a challenge. So that is where we are now. And we would like to discuss how we can do that best.
That's really great, Ingrid. As a European, can I buy shares in your company?
Hopefully in the future you will be able to. Right now we're not on the stock market yet, but yes, we want to stay European. But that is a big challenge. As I say, to grow, we are a scale up, so we will need investment, and that is one of the challenges to stay European.
Thank you. I hope that these will be golden shares in more than one way. Miguel, at the European Commission, many of these lines are coming together. You know, there is regulation, of course, but there is also very significant support for research and innovation. It's not only the telecom sector, but also very much around security, cybersecurity. How do you look at telecoms for strategic autonomy if you take this European Commission perspective?
Thank you very much, Paul. So from a European public service perspective, must say that technology has always been, since the beginning of mankind, important for autonomy and for power, really. But there's a realization that since not so long ago, we've entered a new era in terms of technology development, and the speed of change and the impact of change is phenomenal. So there's something quite new at play in terms of the scope of the change here, and this is dominated by basically the data economy. This is the era that we've entered, and now with this artificial intelligence kind of new chapter, things have only become more. The pace of change has only increased, and the impact is phenomenal. So several things with that. In order to sustain this drive of the AI-driven data economy, you need telecoms. I mean, it's an enabler. It's a basic condition. You need other things. You don't need to forget, resources, natural resources, because we tend to think that we live in a totally virtual world already, but it isn't the case. It is also about resources, and there are included skills and people. And we're seeing that other parts of the world that are pretty conscious about that. So they are leveraging their technology power in order to get to resources. So from the Commission and the European Public Service, there's a realization that, as you mentioned at the beginning, not being at the forefront of key technologies is a real, almost existential danger. So that Europe is dominated basically by other parts of the world, as Europe, it must be said, has dominated other parts of the world in the past through their technology dominance. So indeed, all the things that you mentioned, regulation, research, other types of subsidies, that has to come together to try and level up European capacities on technology, but of course having a strategic direction for that. Otherwise, we won't go very far.
Miguel, for that matter, in Europe we are not alone. We cannot do everything. We may be very strong in telecoms and have strong companies, but it's still international. And also there is an international global world out there. So how do you see this interplay between what we can do in Europe and how we work internationally, business-wise, but perhaps also in terms of research and innovation collaboration, perhaps also in terms of regulation?
That's a very good question, and I would say that this is one of the debates that structures the, the activities at the European Union at the moment, which is this notion of open strategic autonomy. So how open you are versus how strategic, if you like, and autonomous you want to be. And there are different opinions about it at all levels. I would say, in the Council of Ministers, even within the Commission, you have different opinions about that. It's not an easy one, but I only know one thing: these other companies in the world, these other parts of the world that are driving in technology, they are underpinned. Their their leadership. It's underpinned by I would say a collaboration between the public and the private sector. It comes in different shapes. China is not the same thing as the United States, but they both have it. So we have to find our own particular way of combining public and private, and as you say, openness versus supporting the homegrown, champions, if you like.
That's really a stepping stone for a question that I wanted to ask Paul, about collaboration, because you already talked about it. It's complex, but you can also win by collaboration. So what kind of collaboration do you think should happen more for your own business, and for our strategic autonomy? And where do you think might be some of these kind of challenges that we have to overcome?
Indeed, that's a very complex issue, Miguel. I think you already phrased it very accurately. The cooperation is necessary not only between government and businesses, but also between different technology layers. And we've already spoken a lot about the different stacks that we have. So within Europe, there are certain industries that we are very strong at. We have the best chip building company in Europe is in the Netherlands. we have a lot of expertise on quantum technology. So we have to claim some of these technology layers, because as long as you do not control the total stack, you gain autonomy. You don't need to control the total stack, but you do need to cooperate, and that is public-private, that's between institutions, but it is also, if regulation comes out, take the NIS 2, it is, let's not debate it too much in every country, but hurry up with the implementation of these type of regulations. So it's also the sense of urgency should also bring us closer, faster together to get to where we want in, building our own autonomous network, wherever that exact definition is, of course, in the geopolitical environment that we live in today.
You're using really a great word here. There's this report of Niinisto, the former Finnish president, who says urgency and agency. So we know it's urgent, we also have to act. And I think people are starting to act. And sometimes it's difficult to maneuver. Georg, we are jointly running WorldWed, where we are giving advice on geopolitics and technology. And it can sometimes be really difficult to navigate this complex landscape. So how can the EU better navigate the complexities in this world?
Well, I think this is one of the big things which are ahead of us, and the changes in the global landscape are so fast, are so fundamental, and so threatening that it is important that all decision makers, policy makers, regulators, and industry understand to look at the developments through the lens of geopolitics and understand the effect of hybridization, meaning that you should not look at incidents in an isolated way. You should look at in a holistic way what happens, and then working from there, take it from there and develop a new way of European politics, and simply single out those which are not willing to work together. More kind of the coalition of the willingness.
This also points to this directing, because you say hybridization, so you look at different infrastructures that are related to each other. Like Miguel, you are also much involved in the undersea cables initiative. That's one of those examples where you talk about a physical infrastructure is at the same time a digital infrastructure, lots of concerns around it. Action is being taken. Also in the Netherlands, serious action is being taken. A quick update, perhaps you can just in a few words say what is the latest development in EU policy on undersea cables, and how will this contribute to our strategic autonomy?
Okay, so there's been recently a series of incidents, in particular in the Baltic Sea, North Sea, with cables being damaged, and is quite unsettling because it's difficult to find out very quickly if this has been provoked or not. So it's very unsettling. But nevertheless, that has been a wake-up call to recall with the importance of submarine cables, where over 99% of international data traffic flows through them, and realization that this is talking about the importance of telecoms with the subject of this panel for strategic autonomy, that this is a quite fundamental asset. So realizing this, there were discussions at very high level around these incidents in the Baltic Sea very recently this year. And this prompted the European Commission to come up with an action plan on the security and resilience of submarine cables, just adopted 10 days ago. Doing, taking stock of what has been done, and basically, to summarize very quickly, it's around this traditional security cycle of prevention, detection, reply, and deterrence. And it addresses these different areas. Everything around prevention is identifying the risks and anticipating and investing, and redundancy, you mentioned it before, but also the aspects around the detection and rapid intervention, quite important. And there are also, there are discussions with NATO for that matter. It gets very military for that matter. And then the repair, the intervention, spotting this aspect of repair vessels. that is a challenge because there's not many of them and they are very solicited. And this action plan calls for joint action in order to increase the capacity to repair damaged cables. So this is very much in a nutshell what's in this action plan, which also taps onto different tools, regulation, not only regulation, but in this directive and the critical entities resilience directive are applicable to this area. Funding, of course, and of course political coordination will be mobilized for this.
Let's.
If I may add to that, from Eurofiber, we're also part of the Undersea Convention, so a consortium, so also building on the security of undersea cables. But we have the same issue on land. It is not only on, in the seas. So the cable seas are very important because the satellite is the alternative to cable, but satellite today is also debatable if that is really higher secure in the future, given that all that is all, dominated by certain countries. So that is interesting. But on land, we have the same issues that we need to secure networks much more than we currently do. The networks that we have at Eurofiber, they are 60 centimeter depth. If you look at consumer type networks, they are 30 centimeters. But if you look at manholes, handholds, pop locations, the locks on there are not very hard to break. So even there we have an issue that we need to understand, that we need to secure also on land, like at seas, even much further in the future, to build the real secure networks of the future.
Yeah, and I think in all of these areas, the interesting thing is actually we are challenged by security, but at the same time, it's also an opportunity for innovation, for doing a better business. So I think it's interesting. I think they really got it right, competitiveness and security. And one of those areas is surely also quantum communications. I mean, you can put things in place. I think you just had a contract for 1 million together on quantum communications. But we have to be careful in quantum communication because it's still an emerging area and it's not guaranteed that Europe is going to be a winner in it. So what can Europe learn from other areas, telecoms perhaps in particular, perhaps also semiconductors, to do well so that quantum is a winning technology for Europe? Doesn't mean that we are the only ones, but certainly it's going to be good for Europe's strategic autonomy.
That's a very good question. Indeed, quantum technology, quantum networks can provide a solution to secure networks, to provide a tamper detection, to actually enable the detection of any tampering that somebody would do with a fiber or with a communication link. And what can we do to make sure that we keep this technology? Because right now, Europe is at the front of quantum network developments. We have the best we have very good universities where very high level research is being done. We have a lot of companies that are emerging, like Qbert. We're 3 years old, but we already are quite far ahead in building systems. But we need to stay ahead. And we need to make sure that this technology does not disappear out of Europe, as has happened with, for instance, AI. And which has happened with a former field of mine, solar cells. We were, as Europe, also ahead with photovoltaic technology. That all disappeared to China. AI all disappeared to US. So we need to make sure that we keep quantum technology inside Europe. And yeah, to be honest, one of the ways that I can see is to make sure that there's enough funding. Funding from governments, but also funding from investments, VC funding to grow companies, to make sure that we have a way to scale here and not going overseas because there is better to build up a company.
Thank you. Not only Europe first in research, but also Europe first in the markets, so to say. Let's wrap up this panel. And perhaps a last word for everybody. If you would give any advice for, well, I'll ask the 3 gentlemen to give an advice to Ingrid, because she's saying, we need to keep this quantum technologies as a success story in research, innovation, and deployment commercially. So with your experience, give an advice to Ingrid, and then I'll ask Ingrid at the end, what is it that you would still like to see added?
Well, of course, as Eurofiber, we work with Ingrid all the time. So we think we have a very good cooperation. And this is part of a partnership that we have between connectivity, which is Eurofiber, and then the intelligence on the quantum technology, which comes from Qbert. So that those type of partnerships, I think, I hope also that we can jointly build up more partnerships to make this grow even faster.
Together you are much stronger.
So my advice would be to look not only on the communications industry, also on the energy industry. Because for me, these are the digital twins, energy and telecoms, and both need quantum for the secure communication, also quantum sensing. You alluded to that. Very important for the security of cables. So that all comes together, and we need a holistic view at this.
Miguel.
So actually, I wouldn't like to give you an advice. I would like to take advice from you, because you mentioned funding. There's a lot of funding, European funding, which is going into the area, into quantum. So it's important to get the feedback in terms of what's the most efficient way and the most strategic way of spending that funding, so that really we're hitting the target. So it's important to get that feedback from the people on the ground, such as you are.
Great. I'll start with the last question first. What is the best way for Europe to fund companies? I honestly think it is the best not just to give subsidy, but to put out orders for systems, to allow us to, or to have us, give us the opportunity to grow by putting out orders to build a network, to build a quantum computer, to build a connection to quantum sensors, just to increase the industry by giving us orders. I think that is the best way to provide input to companies that want to scale. Not just subsidy, but really giving us orders. And then I think next, from Paul, from Eurofiber, we are really happy to collaborate with you. And I think it gives us a lot of learnings how our systems can connect to a network, a lot of experience from years of industry, implementing with other companies. What do users want? So that is for us, I mean, invaluable to work together to allow us to grow. And then final, to look also at energy. To be honest, that is an aspect we are not yet looking into, but that's a really good point. The way we see it, we are now looking into governmental sectors, critical infrastructures. Financial sector is high on the agenda, but also the energy sector needs to be secured. So thank you for that. That's a really good point. We don't have a lot of connections there yet, but it's really important as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. This was a very constructive session. And you see it's very broad, of course. If you talk about telecoms for strategic autonomy, quickly you touch upon all kind of topics. And I think we have a winning formula. And that's actually when we take the complexity seriously. And we are smart enough to pull all the lines together with the support of all of you and create a success here for Europe. Europe first. So great applause for the panel. Thank you very much.